Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought us again together so that we can go over the second chapter within our discussion on diminishing musharaka. Today, the time, because it's a little bit limited and there is so much scope of diminishing musharaka and the discussions within it, that I want to just dive into it. So let me just get the confirmation first. If they alhamdulillah. So, inshallah, let's start and dive right into it. I'm going to go over a brief recap from the last week so that we know everybody is on the same spot. We discussed some basic aspects with regards to partnership, with regards to getting together for a joint venture, for purchasing a property or purchasing any kind of a commodity and as a co-own. And then using that mechanism within the Sharia so that we can actually acquire a financing for it. Many of us want to acquire houses, we want to get them, but at the same time, we always know that it is difficult, or we don't know that the organizations that are providing that Islamic financing, whether they are good or not, or whether what even is the procedure behind what they are doing. So last time I asserted that we are going to focus on, for this particular program, only on one of the types of financing for this purpose. And this is mostly used across the board from most of the organization. If they provide anything else or not, they will definitely be providing this particular mode of financing, unless their entire structure is devised to provide you something completely different. So a quick recap is, Amar comes to the Bakr Housing Financing and tells them he wants to buy a house. So Bakr Housing says, yes, we will be willing to help you out. However, we have a demand, we have a requirement that you are going to put in a down payment of 20% of the for the house. So we talked about this as being a partnership, meaning you have to start off as a partner. It cannot be that the Bakr Housing is going to purchase the house and then thereafter it's going to sell you something else, some portion from it in order to make you the partner. That can be done, but that will have more implications with regards to independency of the transactions that will be involved within it. So for example, if I purchase my car in completion, now once I have purchased it, I am the owner for it. I cannot say that I am co-owned with somebody else, right? Now I need to take possession of it. I need to have it in my milkiya, in my ownership and everything before I can sell it over to you, or before I can sell a portion of it over to you. So those kind of problems will occur in case Bakr Housing says like, oh, we will secure the house. Don't worry, you have given us the indication you want to get this house. We'll secure this house for you because you don't have any money. We'll just get the house, and then we are going to make you the partner within it. So if Bakr Housing is going to tell you that they are doing this, automatically you know that this is not musharaka. This is not a partnership, right? So these are red flags that you can look into. So at the inception, Amar and Bakr Housing they are going to come over, and Amar is going to put in 20% and Bakr is going to cover the 80% of it. In our example, we had said $100,000 would be the price of the house, and that's why they're going to have 20 and 80%. Amar purchases 10% worth of share every succession. Every subsequent time, Amar is going to buy one share, which is equal to 10% of the house. Right, so that he can get more and more shares in the house, in the end getting the entire house. And we said for our purposes, for the purpose of a good combination in between them both, they are going to mutually decide on what the price for that one share is going to be beforehand. As I told you, there has to be independency of transaction even between in between the share purchases. So because there has to be independency, there is quite a bit of possibility of renegotiation for those particular shares and their pricing. But we are going to assume that none of that is going to be contested in between the partners, so that the partnership actually flows fluently, rather than every time negotiation taking place and everything. So this will keep on going on until Amar is going to have 100% of the ownership of the house, whereas Bakr is going to be left with nothing at all. Partnership will be concluded. Amar has successfully acquired the house, while Bakr has made the profit by selling those particular shares at a higher rate by infusing profit into every single particular share per share transactions. This was the simple musharaka financing that we said. You can still use this model as well in between the friends, in between brothers. When you are if you know one of the brother wants to buy a new car, a new van or something like that, he wants to put in money for maybe something like a taxi or something like that. So you can definitely use this model where 5 of you or 10 of you can come together, purchase a vehicle along with a share of the new individual who wants to buy the vehicle from you, and then over time just dispense him out and break up, and while making a profit through it as well. So there's nothing wrong with it, nor shar'an nor legally. You can set it up in a legal documentation. It's going to be no problem with it. The only concern that we said last time was that we don't want the house to be sitting there useless, right? So what we wanted to do was move it over onto a diminishing musharaka, so we can utilize the potential of the house itself. And what our objective in this case would be, we still want to retain the concept of person partnership in between the two individuals, so that they can mutually own it, whereby reducing the risk of owning that house. We also want to realize the potential of the income potential. Last time we discussed, yes, it is definitely completely possible for these two partners to come together and say, we are going to put it on the market for rental. And whatever the rental income comes, we are going to divide it according to our mutually agreed percentage profit for it, right? So that is completely fine. The problem with that is, if that were to happen, our main goal is that Amar should own this house by the end of the whole cycle. So if Amar is only going to get the return from the rental income, that is going to be a very small portion, because he started off with the 20% of the house. So that rental income that he's going to get out of it, even if they mutually agreed to be 30-70, which the Bakr housing is not going to agree, because they own the bigger chunk of the share of the house. So they want the bigger chunk of the return as well. So he's only going to be coming in with the 20% of the profit from the rental income, and he'll have to use that towards the purchase of the share housing. Like to purchase it, it's going to take a long time for him. And plus, at the same time, Amar will be renting elsewhere and paying rental over there as well, right? So we are from the feasibility perspective of it, it's a very bad decision to rent it out to somebody else while Amar is already renting with somebody else as well, right? So the best decision would be for Amar to utilize the place for living himself as well, right? And then at the same time keep on purchasing portions from the house. And that's what diminishing musharaka is. And so what we'll do then is allow the purchasing client to utilize those rentals for the house usufruct. This may be a new term for you guys. Usufruct simply means the manfa'ah, the benefit of any commodity. So if you have a car, its mileage, its usage is usufruct. Right? It's what's being utilized, and that's what you are going to be monetizing for yourself. If I am selling you a laptop, then its usage for the next 1 year, 2 year, that usage is going to define its value, right? And that's what in your mind you are going to pay for, that usage, and not really for the physical aspect, because even after you have used the laptop and it's old and everything, you're going to throw away the actual physical thing. Right? So you've only utilized the usage of it. So we want to for Amar to be able to retain the usufruct of the house while not bending or breaking any kind of Sharia rules at that same time. Finally, we want this whole process, this whole model to be structured in a very good and very simple manner, in such a way that even if it becomes really technical, very, very minute technicality comes in between it and gets complicated, it is still sufficient and feasible to be actually replicated. It can actually be done. Right? So understand that the transactions that we are going to look for right now, a model that can be done, it's no problem. In fact, even if you make them 10 to 15% more complicated and even higher, there are legal facilities or in our economic terms that we can actually use them. We can actually bring them out. For example, we are living in a time where we have microtransactions, right? You can purchase a 0.05% of a commodity. I mean, when you buy a share into some huge place like maybe Tesla or something like that, I'm not saying it's a good company to invest in anything, but let's assume if you are investing in such a company, you are not buying like one share, you're buying like 0.00001% of the share, because the company is so huge. Right? So we have those facilities available, and those can be applied to your homes as well. And they do apply it when they are trying to make it as comfortable and as feasible as possible. So for our purposes, it can, as I said, it can be done in a very easy manner. Look at the first house on your left over there. And that's what we're going to use as an example for today. The house can be divided into 10 different shares, right? As we did in our previous example. Every house will have 10 shares. Every share is going to be representing 10% of it. So, and every time, let's assume monthly, you are going to be buying another one share into the house, with the aim that after 8-9 months, you will have bought the entire house. Now, obviously, from realistic purposes, that doesn't happen. You can't buy the house, if you're financing, you can't buy the house in 8 to 9 months, because the costs are going to be so much, the monthly payments are going to be so high. But for understanding's sake, we are going to utilize that. But at the same time, keep in mind that you can also do what's on your right side over here, that the house can be divided into 100 shares, right? You can even divide it into 1,000 shares, as long as you can manage it. Right, so the more shares you are going to divide, it will have pros and it will have cons. You will limit down the capital share that you're going to be purchasing from the financing company. Right, so one share in the one on the right is going to be significantly smaller than the one on the left. However, at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. Remember that. If the one on the right, because it's 100 shares, meaning it's going to take 100 months for you to buy it. And for those 100 months, you will be giving out all those rentals for all those months as well. Right? And those rentals are what's going to conform to the profit of the financier. Right? So this is, every block will be rented out, as well as has the potential of being purchased by the individual himself. And this is what Amar is going to be looking at. So we are going to go to the place when they enter into this partnership with 20% of the house. So look at it over here. This is Amar's 2 shares, that is 20%. And remaining shares of Bakar Housing is now 8 shares that are left over here. In our example, just to go over what the numbers were, the cost at which the partnership was built is $100,000. $80,000 was provided by the Bakar Housing, and $20,000 Amar was putting it himself. Amar became the partner of 20% of the house. Bakar Housing has 80%. For today's example, we are going to go with 10 shares representing 100%. Hence, every share's purchasing price is assumed to be mutually set at $1,000. Okay, the financing is expected to be the financing is expected to last for about 8 to 10 months, as we're going to see from the chart later on as well. At the same time, Amar will be renting out the remaining portion of the 80% of the house which the Bakar has. And as the month goes by, that renting portion is going to decrease, and that's why this is diminishing musharaka, that you are actually reducing the portion that you are renting out from the financier. This is an assumption now. If we assume that the market rental agreed price for that house is $1,800, and then we will calculate 80% of that is going to be around $1,440. Right? I'll give you these calculations again, but this is an assumption. Normally, this rental will be agreed on by both the parties by looking at the actual market and what's the appraisal going on in the actual real market as well. And normally when we say that the financing companies, they have handle on these things, they are looking at the market trends automatically already, and they have their own calculators to calculate these things automatically as well. So now let's assume they have gone into the partnership, and we are going to work out the first month's rental plus payment towards the, one share. Okay. For the first month, it's going to be actually 2 shares because 20% is they're going to come in. So monthly rent is mutually set per share. From this slide, if full rental, again the same thing, is appraised at 1800. So we are going to say per share rental is going to be $180 per month, right? So per share. That makes it easy, because when we are going to go forward and look at like how many shares are left by Bakar Housing, we are simply going to say look at the number, and we know that, oh, the rental for it we have agreed to 180, and just multiply and find out what the rental portion is going to be. It becomes easier to calculate that way. So this is the calculation of what we already did. For 80% or 8 shares, Amar is expected to pay monthly rental of 180 times 8, that is $1,440, right? $1,440. Now, before he enters into the rental agreement, as we discussed, he will pay $20,000 down payment. It's not really a down payment, because he's not really buying into a mortgage or anything like that. It's a purchase of the 20% of the product itself, right? And that's going to secure him 20% shares in the joint commodity, that is the house, right? And hence the initial payout in the first month is going to reflect that. He's going to give out a chunk of $20,000, plus he'll have to give out the rental for that month that he's going to be using it. And there are some concerns, deeper concerns over here, and I don't want to go into that, because that's going to confuse a little bit, because there are different possibilities. You could be paying the rent at the beginning of your transaction, right? Whereas you still have to live in that for that month, as happens in the rental. But it could be that the house financing organization has a stipulation that once you enter into a partnership, then after that for 4 months you cannot purchase another share, right? Just so that they can set their legal terms and everything into order, right? In Pakistan and those areas, they have this buffer period of 1 year. So the first year is only rental. And then from the next year, you actually start purchasing the shares out of it. Depending on how it's constructed, those can change. But just keep in mind that this simple product can be made complicated, can be made into multiple different layers as well. But which is why it's always not a recommendation, rather a requirement, that whenever you are engaging with any company with these kind of financing, please have some scholar or have someone who is an expert of the field to review that contract beforehand, before you actually sign, right? Many a times people say like, oh, Mufti Sahib, it's a rush thing, you know, we have to finish it off. If it is a rush thing, you might as well go and commit haram, because al-ujlatu min ash-shaytan, right? Rushness is from shaitan. So this is a matter of halal and haram. If it is being rushed, rather you stay out and adopt taqwa, adopt ease, and then find out what's good, and then follow up with it. Right. Now, what this will mean is 80% rental for the Bakars, 80% is going to be that 1440. And then purchase into the joining partnership of 20% is going to be at $20,000. So in the first month, he's giving $21,440. This seems big, but remember that this is our example for only 8 or 9 months, right? That's why. But if we were to divide into multiple shares, that big chunk, 20,000, is going to shrink down into something smaller. Let's continue. Subsequent month 2, month 3, the process is going to be exactly same. You just have to remember every month that new transaction that is taking place, it's a new transaction, it's an independent transaction, because you are purchasing into a new share, right? The rental can go on automatically, because you have already assessed ijara or leasing and renting that has a scope in Sharia to be very, very flexible in its construction. So we can do that very nicely. But buying and selling of the shares, that has to follow its rules. So in month 2, the same thing will apply. You will actually purchase one more share and get the 30% share of the house. So 7 shares are left for Bakar Housing, and they're going to charge you rent for the 7. And that 7 shares is going to be 180 times 7, 1260 plus 10,000 for that one share that you're going to purchase. And repeat process until you go to the end. right? In the next one is going to be 40%, and then you continue. This is the kind of a chart that's going to come about from it, right? So that same down payment is there. Total number of shares we have stipulated as 10 shares, and then $180 per share is the rental, and that's going to go ahead. You will notice over here in the first month there is a high payment of $21,440, while Bakar Housing keeps 8 shares. Their share keeps on going down, and similarly the rental also keeps going down because their number of shares are less, right? And similarly over here, your payment for that particular share, that stays same only because we are assuming, or we are dictating, that the two partners should finalize that per share pricing beforehand, right? If you want to complicate, yes, the Bakar Housing can make profit from the sale of shares as well as from the rental. They can do from both, but we are saying that for this model to run smoothly, we are going to decide no, they should go by one share. So every month we don't have to come to a table, renegotiate, make a deal and everything, so and carry on. The question may come then, how does this deal every month, how does this deal actually gets done, right? So in the stack of contracts, there are also going to be small contract, 1 or 2 pages of wakala, agency. So you are going to find somebody else who's going to represent you when conducting that monthly deal, right? And that could be from their own office that has this duty, that he will act as your wakil, but you are going to relinquish that power over to him to do this transaction, right? And then this goes on all the way to 8 months and everything. You'll notice that by the 8th month, your rental portion comes down to only 1 share, and that's $180. So what happens in the 9th month? There is no rent because you own the house, right? And in the 9th month, the only thing happening in the beginning of the 9th month is you are buying the last share, and because you're not living in the house for that month, you're only going to pay the share price of that last share, that is 10,000. Right? That's why your last payment is going to be 10,000, and in the total now what's going to happen is initially the Bakar Housing had put in 80,000, right? And the house was 100,000, and then your payout to Bakar is 106,480. That 6,480 which you have paid in your rentals is actually the profit that the Bakar Housing has made, right? It may seem small right now, but when we start looking at longer programs with more than 100 months to pay, normal a mortgage lasts for about 20 years, right? So you can figure out like how many months are going to be. In the next example that we did, I hope the figures are big enough for you, but this is a 100-month schedule, right? This is a 100-month schedule in which the same, your down payment or initial buy-in was 20,000, right? And you secured, instead of 2 shares, now 2 out of 10 shares, you secured 20 shares out of 10 shares, right? Out of 100 shares, right? And then notice something else here. The rent per share is 12.34,557. It's a very obscure number, right? And that's only, I kept it for my example over here, just so that we match it with the example that we did last week, right? So in the last week, we said that what's going to happen is, the Bakar Housing is going to make a profit of 40,000. Right, out of 80,000, on top of that, it's going to make a profit of 40,000. That's going to be divided into all the pool of investors that the Bakar Housing has got. So, in order to keep that 40,000, I've worked back towards what the rent would be per share. But that again is going to be decided mutually in the beginning of the contract, that how that rental is going to be, because that, as I said, that is the main profit that the Bakar Housing is going to be making. So imagine if they were to increase that rental portion from $12 per share to maybe like $20 per share, right? And substantially increasing the profit that they're going to generate from this whole method, Right. The other thing you can keep in mind is at the end, the totals of the rentals that you have paid out are 40,000, still paying the 100,000 on the whole house, and total of 140,000. Right. Out of that 140,000, 20,000 is your initial payment. So the profit towards the Bakar housing is 40,000 itself. Right. Up until here, shouldn't be a problem. Normal ones are not at 81. The schedule that you get from most of these organizations, you should I mean, they try to make it look really complicated. So sit with somebody who knows a little bit of mathematics and how Excel works and everything. Try to figure them out, because many of the times, if they want to hide something, they hide that in the scheduling. Right, where you are paying and what kind of expenses you are paying, because they are going to take out from there. Some final points you should look towards when we are saying like, oh, this diminishing musharaka is concluded. The schedule for these transactions can be made in many different ways. If you noticed over here, what I did was that I tried to maintain all the payment towards the capital same, and all the rentals that are going out, they are in the same numbers. Right, and it's like small numbers that are going down, but in reality, your actual payment that is going out is it's very in points and decimals and everything, right? So if you're not doing the banking work and it's automatically being taken out from your bank and everything, that doesn't matter. Right, it's going to go ahead. But most of the organizations, what they do is the payout, the last payout, the total payout, they like to keep that in a very whole number. Like it's a whole number, like $1,240 or $2,000 or something like that, and then work the ratios within it differently. For example, they may say it's 2,000 for the month. For 8 years, your rental is going to be 2,000. Right? But inside that 2,000, as the rental increases, the rent portion will decrease, and you will be paying more towards your capital share, right? And they will make the schedule according to that. So what it pleases the person who is doing it is, oh, okay, monthly I am giving 2,000. That's what I have to calculate according to my expenses and everything, right? As I said, can be done, no problem, as long as you have a wakil who is representing you for monthly transactions over there. All that can be done, right? To minutest to the you paying for only 0.1% of the share, rather than paying for the whole share or percentage wise and everything. All those can be done, right? And some will do it, make it difficult for people to understand, but easy for it to become feasible. Since there is a lot of calculation involved, it serves that the schedule be made beforehand, and you should look towards it. All the documentation of your house purchasing, you must go through it on your own, right? Learn to find out the terminologies and jargon, so that you can figure out what's happening with your money and what you are getting involved into. There are Sharia requirements of independence of each transactions, and that have to be kept in mind. Yes, one thing that you will find out in many of the organizations that they're using. Remember that last month payment I mentioned, that $10,000 for one share that was supposed to be normal. That last share is called G share, right? And it's something that the industry has come up with, and they use this to catch people, right? What they do is, justification for it is that over the 8 year, 10 year, 20 years, there are going to be some discrepancies which they had not foreseen throughout that 2 decades, right? So what they're going to do is they are going to cover any of their losses that they may have come across in the last share that they're going to sell you. So they will say the negotiation for the last G share, it's kept open, and it will be informed at the end of your entire transaction, right? They do it, but what you have to keep in mind is, regardless of if they do it, Shar'an, you should have the eligibility of actually contesting that and telling them, no, I don't want to pay that much, right? So that should be there. They ought to be there. You cannot relinquish it beforehand. Then finalizing over here, There are some other concerns when it comes to diminishing musharaka or these contracts as well, and that is, for example, insurance during the tenancy insurance. Who's going to mandate that? Is it mandate under the legal law? Is it mandate under the Sharia law? Under Sharia, we don't have any concept of a tenancy insurance, but sometimes it is mandated by way of securing the investors that are in there. Right? For example, if you have a commercial place and you may be forced to take a tenancy insurance by way of urf and the custom of people around, otherwise the people are going to lobby and get you out of there. Right? So in those cases, Sharia will show some compensation, some relaxity, but not too much. Right? So you have to know what's happening over there. Expenses related to the property and expenses related to the rental and the municipal expenses and the taxes. Who's going to pay those kind of expenses and everything? Understand, when you are a mutually co-owned individual in the house, then both the parties must bear the expenses. You cannot dump the expenses onto the tenant or the person who is purchasing and relinquish yourself from those expenses. So, if somebody is doing that, they are imposing and committing zulm, even though al-Muslimuna ala shurutihim, that Muslims can enact their transaction according to their own conditions, mutually consensual. But at the same time, if something like that is happening, that means that the financing company is trying to impose something unwanted upon you. This is how the entire diminishing musharaka will work. Some changes here and there, and if we have more time, inshallah, later on in different settings, we can go through some contracts and go through some examples and everything, how they can be utilized. So I'll open the floor for questions, and inshallah you can